It's meant to be a mystery class. I started now.
Okay. Um,
Bef-
the quiz isn't that bad, but that tape measure tool, that link doesn't work.
The length doesn't work?
Yeah, to that video.
Oh, it doesn't work when you click on it? Does it just say, sorry?
It
Well,
says
that's the saddest
the
thing.
video is.
Mothers of cats. All right, I'll have to figure out a new one. It's been terminated. That's dramatic. Well, we'll cover a good deal of it. I mean, now that I've taught it, and I'll check the quiz tonight before you take it, so just don't take it right after the class, and then I'll say, okay, you're good to go. I'll see if there's anything outside of the scope of what I teach from the video. I am recording now.
Okay,
Thanks for letting me know. Let's
sounds
see if
good.
this one works. Okay, this one does work. And they're short.
Yeah, the other two were.
So 2 minutes, 28 seconds, you can all manage that guy. It's just like a big on the Google 3D warehouse, and I'm going to cover it tonight as well. Um, and then this guy is just a boring guy. He brings in a really big model, and I think I could have positioned the idea of an underlayer better, and I did with some of you when we talked in virtual lab hours we randomly created throughout the week about not exploding it versus exploding it, that drawing when you bring it in from AutoCAD, and how we could treat it just like a tracing layer instead. And it might be more successful. And I reviewed my old video, and that's how I did it last semester. So we might just review it. It worked just fine either way, but it could have been cleaner, I think. So here's 3 videos. Watch these 2, and maybe I'll find the updated one of this, or I'll just say I'll delete it and I'll say yes, I covered everything in class. And I started the recording for the people in the chat. So I'm going to pull up this drawing here and talk a little bit about some of these menus that we covered very briefly. We just did a little walkthrough last week, opened them up. We didn't use every single tool and see what it would do. Very important to our use is the View tab. Under the View tab, we have things like axes, guides. We're not too concerned with shadows and fog, really, unless we're rendering it at the end. Edge style is a good thing to check when we bring in different models and they look a little bit odd or they're coming up very liney. We can see how those models are coming in, if their edges are turned on or off. If our model edges are turned on or off. If I turn my edges off, and then I go back to View, and I turn my profiles off, look, it's so much softer, right? And that might be a very beautiful way to do our final rendering. So when we're drawing, though, it's nice to have those hard black visual cues as to where each of the lines are that we can either erase out, turn on and off, group. So this would be a last resort. We want to make sure that when we're drawing until the last rendering, then we're having our edges on, and it's under View, Edge Style, and then we also can have our profiles on, makes it even thicker, and that way we can see each individual black line that we need to click on and develop. Right now your walls look like this wall, where they're kind of blank. Some of them might have like a line on here because we cut the wall right here, so it does have a line on this front face, but really in the end we didn't need to hide those or do anything with them because it has a nice, what I'm calling trim, although that's not the technical word for it. I'm just calling it that so we can understand it all as a group. This trimming on the exterior all the way around. You'll notice that there's 2 different sides, trim, sizes of trim. So on the, and we said this is north, okay, so on our north, east, and west walls at the top, we have this thicker trim that is 1 foot thick. You don't have to take notes on this. It's going to be in your rubric later for how to draw. All the other trim is 6 inches, so it's 6 inches widthwise. 6 inches, 6 inches up from the bottom, but then on the back, all the tops of the north, east, and west, 1 foot, eventually when I draw it in, 1 foot. and then all the little pieces on the other walls will be 6 inches. And it's just a nice detail to give it more visual interest from the exterior view. We didn't do a whole lot with detail with the boathouse because I had to draw it really quickly right before the class started, so it didn't have all the nice things that my husband, who created this model for me because he had more time than I did. So we're going to put gutters on the house eventually if I go into my layers, because I've kind of taken the original drawing and gotten it down to what you should be seeing for the most part. We're going to have pillars, we're going to have a roof, we're going to have a slab floor. The pillars will fill in on all the corners here. I deleted them out today so we can talk about creating them. We're going to have a little bar in here. Look at this nice gutter detail that he did. I mean, who has the kind of time to do that stuff? My husband, that's who. So we're going to turn the roof off for now, and we're not going to worry about doing everything this week. We're just going to do a few pieces. So today I want to walk through the homework with you from the beginning of class, and by the end of it we'll have covered a lot of the tools, the usage of the 3D warehouse, and possibly some more on importing, how to cut our openings, all of that stuff. And then you'll be able to do it step by step for homework as well. So let me pull up the rubric for this week. For the rubric, you have all of these things to account for. We're going to start, and I do them in this order. I ordered them this way because it's the best workflow so that you don't have weird things happen. Like if you start with the trim first before the doors, you're going to have a weird thing where you can't just push this full shape out because you've done this little 6-inch piece down here and you'll have to do 2 steps. So by doing it in this order, it'll work out most advantageously for you. We're going to cut out the doors. The door height is 82 inches, commonly 80 inches. The door width is 36 inches. Cut out the window. The width is 30 inches. The height is 5 foot 3 5/8, and the sill height is 1 foot 6 inches. So sill height is from the ground, bottom of this wall, to the top of the cut opening. That's the sill height. We're going to then draw all the exterior trim lines, so all these 6-inch lines that are kind of offset in, except for the north, east, west walls where the top pieces of trim, this portion up here, you can see in the lower left, my little cursor, is 12 inches or 1 foot 0 tall. I've included these visual reference images just so you can see all the size of what it will look like when it is completed correctly. That should be useful to you. And then the next thing after we draw the trim lines will be, this will just be a little white block in here on each of these sides. We'll have white trim, white blocks on the inside. We're going to paint those to be the siding material, cladding siding white in a 3:2 ratio. After that, we'll create a slab that's not shown here, but I'll show it in my video, that's 2 inches thick using push-pull. And then we're going to import exterior office items to bring in from our 3D warehouse. I created my own model for you to load in. We're going to place all of those items in the correct spots in the model. After that, you are going to, on your own, select and bring in a bathroom vanity and a toilet, and bring in an interior door of whatever style you want. So for that interior bathroom door, you're going to pick it from the 3D warehouse, and then you're going to place the vanity, the toilet in that space, and then cut the door opening and place the door. All right?
Hey, Allison.
Mm-hmm.
I just went to session 9 and opened up the session 9 rubric, and it's different from what you're showing us.
Mm-hmm. File, save as desktop, save. Let's see. Class session. Click on it. Homework. Session 9 rubric, it says the same name, but I'll just trust you for now because you are. So if I click this guy and submit him, Oh, I bet it was this one that was wrong, and then there was like one attached, like this one was right probably, and this one was wrong. Because you probably clicked the top file, and I didn't delete out the old one. So if we go back into the homework edit, it looks like I had two. I added one to the actual text. Session 9 rubric, there's my due date, where's my text? Okay, I marked. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. All right, so try, let's see if I open this guy. Doom, 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 doom. It's loading at a snail's pace. Okay, now are they both updated? All right, I think that they are. So that file I just reviewed on screen will be available under the session homework, and then we will walk through how you would complete it. So when I'm talking about the trim pieces, and say you were going to do this wall, we know that the upper portion up here needs to come down the 12 inches, and then we know that for this piece down here it needs to come up 6 inches because we're trying to get this base trim of 6 inches all the way around, but on 3 of the sides it's a little bit deeper. So what I need to do is grab first my selection tool and select my walls. Ignore this overall box. You're going to do it eventually. My husband did it. It's where we take all the groups of the walls, because you can have things on layers within layers. So right now I have all the walls in a group. If I'm looking at this and I scroll to the top in the right hand corner, all my exterior walls are in a group, and then within the group exterior walls I have a wall on the west wall. So there's even more control in a SketchUp environment than you have in a CAD environment. You can have groups within groups and layers within layers. So if I get into my group, which is a step you won't have for my entire exterior, and then I get into my group for my wall, which you will have, and I can tell that I'm in the wall group because everything else in the house is now greened out, telling me I'm only selected on to the west wall. Once I'm in the west wall, this is where I can then grab my draw tool, and if there had been windows to cut out, this is the point where I could start doing preparations for that. Anything I'm going to edit, I have to be all the way into the group, everything else greened out for that wall. So I could start by finding a point here and coming up 6 inches and estimating where that is, or drawing a 6-inch line that I just leave and no one ever knows is there and coming over. But it'd be nice if I had some type of guideline that wasn't permanent in order to find a guide point of 6 inches instead of having extra lines on top of lines, which we said isn't a big deal in SketchUp right now. Sometimes it can be, so there's a better way than just drawing over itself. We can grab our tape measure tool, which measures distances. It creates guidelines or points, or scale, as it says, entire model. So if I use my measure tool and I come down to the end point and I click and I pull up, you can see in the lower right hand corner it's asking for the length, and I type 6 inches. I want to zoom in. Then when I go in here, I want to make sure that it works out. Click, pull up, 6 inches, enter. Oh, there's my guideline. Okay. So then if I measure from here to my blue line, Sorry guys, my mouse is being like crazy on my side. It's got a new ball mouse. So my 6 inches here. Then if I come in with my line tool and I want to find the 6 inches, it should just snap to my guide point. Let me view my guides. There we go. So then I can pull over from my guide point, my line, all the way to the other edge. And it should be a pretty nice snap on the other side. We want to see the word endpoint if you're questioning if it made it all the way across. So I'm going to edit, undo, draw my line, and edit, undo my guide, and edit, undo my other guide that's on top of it. Because it was always there, I just couldn't see it because I hadn't turned my guides on. Okay. So then if I come back in with my measure tool, and I start from the lower corner and I click, and I pull up 6 inches typed, enter, and then I go to view and I have my guides on. It wants to pull over from my guide already. Then I can grab my pencil, and it looks like this little, do you see this little node in here? That is my guide that was created. It's just this little node that's created as a guide point, and then I can draw my line from that guide point all the way over. Now we want to see this red line, right, to know that we're axis all the way across right on the face of this wall, and then we want to click over here while following on edge so that we know it went all the way across. And we could also check it because we know that it created this sliver, so it definitely made it to the other side. So I can have my trim on the bottom, and then if I ever had a question, I could measure from here to here, and you see it is in fact 6 inches. So it's a nice thing to have, and then eventually if I don't want to see that node, I can simply go to view and turn off my guides, and it doesn't exist anymore. So it's a non-permanent way to keep track of lines and have little dashed lines that we can draw over, or construction lines as we might call them in drafting. All right, so something else that's missing that might be on or off when you're coming here and you need to go to view as well is the axes. We all are working from the same axes location for our building. You guys wanted to have it rotated, and it was rotated to be so that this is the north, east, southwest, and then your main axis point where it meets is in the corner. Right here, there you go. So it is right. It's just when I'm double clicked in on that wall, it changes the axes, but this is exactly how we want it. And then you have your porch coming to this corner, and then we have some of our columns in the front. So the next step then is double click on this wall, make sure I'm in here until it's all greened out, and then I know there's a 12-inch one at the top. I do the same thing with my measure tool. I click the endpoint. I make sure I'm snapping down on that blue axis. It's a little hard to see. It's kind of snapping to the edge though. It's not letting me come off of it. Then I type 12 inches, and I want to make sure that my guides are on. Oh, there it is. And then I can grab my little line tool, go all the way across the endpoint, hit enter. If I'm really concerned, I can click on it, make sure it's sliced through so I have a new piece. And that's basically what we're doing for the trim. You're going to want to reference back to this image and see, okay, yep, that cut all the way across. But here I have these three kind of connecting together. There's not lines dividing them, right? It's just one big U shape of 6 inch. So you're going to want to erase out some of those lines and end up with an overall piece. So I would come in here on the side and go over 6 inches. Oh, but I drew my own secret line, so it may or may not hurt anything. We'll see what happened. I didn't use my measure tool. I'd like you to use it if you can. Come up to the edge, hit enter, and then let's see what that leaves us with. 2 slices, great, but we want to eventually get rid of this corner problem in here. If I delete out the corner, does that give me one big piece? Okay, so it didn't hurt anything. When you're really going to want to use the guidelines is definitely for the windows and doors, which you'll see in a minute. So I'd keep going all the way around. Does everyone get the idea of the trim and is not intimidated by it, and I can move on to the next part of our homework? Okay. All right, so you'd continue all the way around until minus this whole siding thing, we have all of that done. And guys, you're gonna kill me. I have like the memory because I'm actually on real pain meds right now. So step one is going to be for us to I want to say it's to cut all the openings. So that should come before this, although this was fine to show you. We have all this trim. It's a really simple step. So and I'm not going to do exactly these openings because it doesn't matter for tonight because I want to keep this model so you can see what's going on. But let's say we didn't do all the trim first, and I'll show you why. So if I was on the front of my house, pretend this is the front, and I came and I make sure that I'm clicked in on my wall. Okay, everything's greened out behind because the door goes on that guy. And there's a door so far in. So let's say my door is 3 foot in, 3 foot, enter. Creates my little guide. Then from that guide I can go up. I said 82 inches from the rubric, 82 inches. Oh, nice dash line. Then from there I go over 36 inches. Then from there I go down 82 inches. Okay. And then I could grab my little clicker. The whole issue is going to be once I grab my line tool and I hard line on top of my guide points, which is great, that's why we want them, there might be 2 pieces, see? So it would be 2 push-pulls instead of 1 clean push-pull. Now you can definitely do that, so you could create all your trim first and you could go and do this. So I have an opening created by guidelines, then drew on top of my guidelines, give me this nice cutout for the door at the heights recommended on the rubric. Then I could grab my push-pull tool. I found last semester that you're intuitively going to want to just take it and click here and push from there. Like you're going to want to push through right here and then, ooh, it worked, okay? That only works sometimes. And it really frustrates people when it doesn't work. Now we'd have to do this guy as well and see how that didn't work, even though it's the same process. I clicked on him, I pushed him, pulled back. Why didn't that work? Well, 1, because it's in 2 pieces, but 2, because of how I did it. So the 2 pieces, I have these dots on the other side that created by the first push-pull that aren't going to let me ever do the offset exactly 6 and snap this out. So I could push-pull that partially, then I'd have to delete this, delete the line, and delete the line. So it's just not as clean of a step as if this trim wasn't here and it would have been a nice one fell swoop push-pull. But also, you intuitively think I'm going to push right in the middle where I'm at. It's better if you give yourself the reference point of the other side that you're cutting to. So if I undo a bunch, edit, undo, erase, undo, push, pull, and I get back to here. If I grab the push-pull tool and I click here and I pull to the on edge, that guarantees me that I'm cutting from the front edge to the back edge, as opposed to where just my pushing in here is like working with clay that you don't know exactly where you're ending up. You're pushing towards a non-existent dot, and sometimes it works great, but sometimes it'll just push and leave like half of it push-pulled only to so many inches in. So if you can, go ahead and find that second reference point to be the opposite wall side. Did I delete those by using delete on my keyboard? Oh, sneaky, yes. So if I push-pulled this guy again as far as I could, notice he still won't go away because the reason is because once I push-pulled the first one, I created this drawn line and dots to where the door opening had gone. It's kind of strange to think about. But if I wanted to delete him, yes, if I select him, I did hit just delete on my keyboard. That's why it disappeared. Edit, undo, erase. I could also grab the eraser tool and select what I want to erase and erase it. So either way, delete, I think keyboard is the fastest way to go, to be honest, but you're right, for showing instructions, I should try and let you know if I do something like that. So ideally, I would like you to start by cutting your openings first and then do your trim so that it's a clean step. So if we undo our erase, undo our push-pulls, and we delete out our trim lines, it could be as simple as doing your trim first and deleting the little 6-inch line in between the opening and doing it. So now when I push-pull, I click push-pull tool, I click on the face that I'm going to push back, and then I pull back, and it'll cut the whole thing out. And it gives the trim on the interior, which we could delete. We're never really going to see it because our doors are in the way. That's totally an option too. So if you want to do the trim first, you'll still only have one extra step of deleting that line. Or we could just not do the trim, and if you don't do the trim first and you're just cutting an opening, you'll be left with this guy on your front wall. Of course, it'll be a little different than this, but you'll have your opening that you're going to push back, and you're going to grab your door, you're going to push through, and it's just going to go back. It's not going to have any extra lines here. It's going to be one step, and then at the end we're just going to go 6 inches up and pull all these lines across. So I don't know really which would be quicker, because like you're going to have to find another guide point on this side, or you'll just pull the line across and delete something out. So it might be 6 to 1/2 dozen to the other, to be honest with you. But these steps, the cutting out and the trim, do come before all the importing and creating of the slab. So step 1 and 2 kind of interchangeable. If you want to do the trim first, the cutouts, I like to do my cutouts when it's nice and clean, so I know it wasn't like an accident with creating too many lines that something didn't work out. It's easier for me to pick out mistakes on your end. Windows are the same way, right? Holes are holes. So all I do is I need to find the sill height. I use a little guideline, and then I come up 1'6", which is the sill height, and then from there I could either go up 5 foot 3 5/8, and then over 30 and then down and create all the dash lines and then push pull through. Or I could have gone over and then up. It doesn't matter the order that you draw those dash lines in, just as long as they all connect at the corners to give you that nice push-pullable, is that something I can say, shape that we just clean all the way through. And you'll know it because it'll say things like it's connecting at the point, end point and group. So we want end point to end point, or we want edge to edge. We want to be looking for those markers that tell us we're having an O-snap moment, but in SketchUp, right? All right, so everybody understands now guides using our tape measure tool. And in theory, how to cut shapes out using push-pull and those guidelines. Any questions? Okay. It's like 90 degrees in the room I'm in. No questions yet. Perfect. So we're going to get to a point where you've cut all of this in and you have added all of your trim, but you do not have any of your siding put in. Okay. So, sorry, I'm just reading through my notes to make sure I don't miss anything. When we come over to our default tray, which is hiding back here, and we have all these different options, and I want to make him bigger again. I can look at the materials that I have. Right now, because I've already put the siding on, if I come into one of these walls and I find the portion that I want, um, I can see that the material on that is in fact cladding, siding, white. The size of it is 3 foot 2 inches by 3 foot 2 inches, and it's locked in its ratio. I can see where it's at in the color wheel. If I wanted to change it, I could make it darker or lighter for the whole house, right? But we don't necessarily want to or need to. I mean, eventually you could change it. I don't think you're changing anything really to the model that you're using for a 108, but if you wanted to make this fancy or kind of like complementary to but not exactly the same as your other building, you might have the freedom to do that. So we could see what this is. Otherwise, if we wanted to find it, we would need to find materials under select. In yours, it's not going to be right away in model. It might be under brick cladding and siding, cladding, siding, white. Okay, so if I want to find this material, I need to come into the materials library and I need to use the down arrow under the select tab and find brick cladding and siding, cladding, siding, white. And then I want to check under edit, because I don't know if my husband did something sneaky, and make sure that it's already at 3 foot 2 inches, which I'm hoping it is automatically that size. Can you go back and show us how to get to materials? Yes, I can. All right, so if materials is just one of each of these drop-down arrows that can be found under the default tray. If I didn't have a default tray, right, and I'm starting from scratch, I would go under Window. This is a little different for Mac users. I would go under Window, Default Tray, Show Tray. Anything that's check marked in here is going to show up on the tray. So I need to make sure materials and layers are definitely going to be on my tray. For now, we don't need scene styles or components. We really just want materials and layers are the big two that we have to have, and entity info, because that was what was telling me what exactly materials I had, what layers I was on. So entity info, materials, and layers for sure. You could have the other things. I have them open. It doesn't bother me any. Then after I'm sure I have what I want, I can click Show Tray. It pulls up the default tray to the side, and you should see all of those things that you selected with check marks as little things that can drop down. When I drop down the Materials menu, it has Select and Edit. Under Edit is where we see the sizing of things, the color on the color wheel, what the name of the texture is. Under Select is where we can see the various items under the categories of materials. So the one I'm most often in when I'm working in my model is the one called In Model. So that one is every type of material that's part of this building is what's showing in my In Model right now. So somewhere in this model, there's some stuff turned off, but like once you import furniture, it's going to pull in the stainless steel that came with your refrigerator and appliances, the fabrics on your furniture, carpet if you have it, stone for the porch. Anything we paint on the model is going to show up in model. The siding that I want you to use is under brick cladding and siding. It's cladding, siding, white. And a lot of times these things that are pre-made things, if you go to edit them, they're going to be locked. So I'm pretty sure he just used it as it was. He didn't bring in anything special. So it should be 3 foot 2 inches. If it's not, we can go into how to edit those things. If I go into my In Model, I can see that I have painted that. Once I've painted that siding once, then I could just get to it in here, which is a lot more handy because this is what I'm working with and I want to find something quickly. It's in the model. So that's where I have the ability to edit it. So if I said, no, actually, Mrs. Green, your husband changes the size. This is where I could come in and click edit and do 6 foot if I wanted to and see it change eventually my model. See how big all the cladding siding got on all the other walls? So if I didn't have this wall selected, it would have changed for everything. But we really want it to be that 3 foot 2. So if it isn't already, then once you're under in model, go to edit, and that's where you can type in 3 foot 2. And you want it to be an equal ratio for both. I know, crazy thing. 3 foot 2. Okay. And then it's back to normal. All right, so how did I even apply this? What if I'm seeing what you're seeing initially on this wall, and this looks like this, right? It's just a plain white wall. So if you want to apply a material, once you find the material, and you're going to initially find it in here, you click on the material, and then you should click on, if it's not already selected from being materials, our paint bucket, and then you can make sure you have the individual wall selected in the area, the face showing as dotted. That means it's ready to receive a material. Then click your paint bucket and it will apply the material. Any questions about that? So your step is going to be find brick cladding and siding, find the one that we want, make sure that the little dots are showing up, grab the paint bucket and paint. Make sure you're in the group and everything's green, and you're going to have to do that for each of these walls because we've made them groups. So if it was suddenly brick that I wanted, I would just click brick. If I don't want that, I click a different one. It's really nice. It's quick. Could be brown siding. Could be cladding stucco. Could be stone. So it's a really, really clean process. All right, but really, it's not what I want. I want that, so I don't confuse you. So you're going to paint all of the inner non-trim pieces, the major pieces of the walls, to be that cladding siding white. All right, we're cooking with gas now. So I am going to pretend this never happened because I don't want it to be. All right, so I want to show you something. Someone said, what if we didn't do like all these lines here because of how I butted up these walls, like a butt joint? This wall butts up to this joint. What if I didn't want this line on the edge over here, and because I didn't miter my walls, or this isn't connected and there is a cut line, how could I make it a prettier model, right? What would get rid of these lines? And what that means is, if this was in fact in model, what you're looking at before you paint it white, okay, and it kind of looks like this minus the little trim guy. Okay, what about this line though? If I don't have trim and it was just supposed to be like a nice cladding going all the way across, what you could do is hide the line. So you have to hide it in both walls. You double click into the front wall first, and you would find that just that individual edge, right click, hide, click out, and then on this guy, double click, find the individual line, hide. When your husband does sneaky things. Should have been one line. We'll let it go though. It might be because of the trim that it's breaking it up. Hide all those lines. Now it's a nice clean face. So you can make mistakes and have secret messy lines. The only thing is, this is like a nice clean grouped thing, so at least I know the messiness is controlled. It's just visual messiness. It's not a mistake that I accidentally drew too many lines. So we can hide mistakes later, and then of course when we go to view and we turn off our edge style and profiles at the end. It's going to make it look even softer. So we can make it look really soft and clean and presentable, but that's kind of a last resort. Usually you want to plan in such a way that if you don't want them butted up, you just create your walls to either have a continuous wall on the inside. The butting up is an unusual thing that I'm doing so I can take this whole face off and see the elevation into this room, and just to control the management of the class. Got so many undos. And actually at this point I've like botched this guy so much, I'm just going to open a different version of it. So Pool House Week 9, that's what I want. There's my house. Okay, so minus this wall, this is what you're going to have for this week's homework. We also need to have a slab, and we're missing a bunch of items that I want you to pull in. So if we go back to the rubric, we're going to have cut our doors out, cut our window out, draw on the exterior trim lines, all trim is 6 inches except what's labeled here. Paint the siding in. The siding material is cladding siding white, 3 foot 2 inches. Create a slab as shown in the video, 2 inches thick, push, pull down. So someone asked me this week, what if when you were doing your drawing and you brought it in, and you started deleting some lines and somehow you deleted your pillars? Like, what's the best way about bringing back in that underlayer and not disrupting anything else? So let's go through importing once again. And first I'm going to turn my axes on, and I'm going to turn my guides on. Another thing about guides is if you get to a point where this is visually overwhelming but you want to see the guides on the screen, they're just, you know, once you've drawn this window, you don't need this anymore unless, say, there was something you want to draw up here. It's nice to have a guide snap point everywhere created by that line. You can click on the line, and then I'm clicking delete with my keyboard right now. I can click on this one, and I could click erase, and it erases out as well. So you can clean up all these guidelines at the end if you don't even want them to come on after you've created things, if you're kind of OCD about it, okay? Now I'm going to import my CAD drawing that I have open. I'm going to turn off the dimensions layer. It comes in with all of this extra junk that I've created. So for me, I'm going to turn this guy off. Okay. And then I'm going to save it. If I can, it would be nice to delete as many things I don't need in the layers in here, which we could go into layers properties, and I could click on text and delete it, and just go through and delete all the things I don't want to import into SketchUp, clean up from CAD and before the export, which is what the guy will talk about in the video a little bit. Or we could do that deleting process when we bring it into SketchUp. So I'll save it once more, out building core, and then I'm going to come into my SketchUp. I'm going to do File, Import. I believe it's under my downloads. Import. There it is. I already had it oriented correctly, which is nice. So it came in with the origin, how it should be right here, and just snapped underneath my model guy. But it looks like my model guy is a little bit further forward, and I know why that is. It's because when my husband did it, he had a shorter porch, basically, and I was like, nope, needs to have more space at the front. So what I want to do first is with this guy, we could totally leave him alone, and we could keep him unexploded and use him as a traceable layer. I'm going to right click him. He's a group already. I could even lock it into place so it doesn't move. You know, we said if we try to select it and then move it, it's locked, so it's not going to let me do anything I want. It's not going to let me erase it out. I could select it and put it on, make a layer that's like under drawing, you know, that we just don't touch, and when we're ready at the end to delete it out, we turn it off, so we could always have it secretly underneath there but not see it. That's one way to go about it. I'll just make that under drawing. It could be anything. You're not stuck with my weird ways of labeling things. So if I do it by name, it's easier for me alphabetically. And I think they've gotten so much better with the organization of layers. So if I click on him, make sure he's still selected, scroll up in my default tray, you can't, well, this is good to know, you can't move a locked layer. So I'm going to click on him and unlock for now. Now he's movable. I'm going to put him on under layer, under drawing, and then I can lock him again. Lock. Okay. So you totally could just have not touched anything in there. I'm going to move this whole guy, thank you husband for putting everything in one giant group, back to that point, which is more where your guys's is. You had a little bit more space at the front of the porch, and then that's what you should have. But notice it didn't hurt anything. If it had came in weird, I would have just simply rotated into position, locked it at the origin with the corner of this post like you did, and it didn't hurt anything that I brought this in. What is annoying about it after I bring something in again is that it brings its layers with it once again. So I have viewport, right? And we talked about how we can just go through and delete all the unnecessary things, title block, minus. So the least things that you can, or the more things you get rid of in AutoCAD, the less you deal with in here. There is a way that you can initially delete out all the layers at once, but most of the time we have some layers we want to keep. So it's just making sure you're managing cleaning up these layers as you go so that there's nothing odd that you're not expecting. Like I have layer 1, I can delete it. Fixed lights, I can delete that. Exterior walls, depth points, don't need that here. Just go through and clean it all up. But I could have done this in AutoCAD. Okay, so we got rid of a whole bunch of junk and then random layer that doesn't even exist, and layer 0. Oh, that's interesting. All right, so we have all of this in here. This is what yours looks like. Now what? We want to create a slab. So the slab is just a good reference point for us in order to be able to create a floor for the overall building. All I want you to do is, once you've kind of locked this under layer, it should be separate from all the walls and everything else, you should be able to grab the rectangle tool, start with the point of the front column, and come to the back point of the house, and it'll just throw the basis for a slab right underneath the house, or exterior office, I should say. Then once I create it, I'm gonna 1, 2, 3 click so that it's all on a group together before I push pull anything. I'm gonna right click to make it a group, make group, and then I could make something called slab. And put that layer on slab. So right now I have it off. My husband already created a slab. The only thing different about his is he push-pulled it down already and then added a material color to it. So you can see if I turn off his slab by going back under the layers to be where you're going to be at in this process, I can then triple click to get on my slab, grab push-pull. I want to push-pull down, and you could be dramatic so you know you're going down, and then type 2 inches, enter for the thickness, and there I have it, and then I can click out. And there I have a slab. And then it's just a nice basis for us to build floor on top of. It's also really necessary to do this right now before we start importing things so that we have a face to snap to with our furniture imports. Okay, so now that I've created this fake slab, I'm just going to keep my husband's because it's fancy. And all he did was he went in, he double-clicked. Let's see what material he has. Remember, we can always check our materials to the right by scrolling up and finding our material. So it's on layer 0. It looks like it wants me to pull it up. Slab is type undefined instance. Wonder what he used. Hey, do you type 2 inches or 2? I believe I usually use the inches sign. But let's see what happens if I wasn't going to. So if I was gonna, let's say, push pull this up and I just type 2, it'll work just the same. I think it'll automatically do it either way, regardless. But it really only matters that you're consistent when you have a foot and an inch, that you don't have the dash line. That's the most important thing to remember. Okay, so let me click out of here. I'm trying to think. I see my material, entity info. I right-clicked to entity info, trying to see if I can't get more entity info than what's already there to come up. So I don't think that he did. Asphalt concrete. I like the gray better anyway, but I'll have to think on it for a minute. I'm kind of having like a mind gap. So what's most important is we can paint it at the end. I'm going to come back to that if I have time. So bring in your slab. It can say gray concrete for all I care this week. And then we're going to bring in our pillars, our windows and door that we need, our exterior kitchen, all of those things at once by way of the 3D warehouse. So anyone can upload to the 3D warehouse. I uploaded to the 3D warehouse today. It was quick and painless. If you go to the 3D warehouse by clicking on the little box with the symbol jumping out of it, the first of the 3, this is the #1 SketchUp crasher you can get using the 3D warehouse. So always save. That's a good tip. Save right before you open this. If it's ever going to crash, it's going to crash in the process of importing, exporting. Always save right before you open this so that you don't lose anything. All right, so I'm going to type in, and my rubric says it for me, exterior office items to bring in. So I'm just going to Control C that guy, Control C. I'm going to put it up here, Control V, and search for my model. Oh, this one. This looks promising. By Allison D. I created my own account. It's really painless to do. In the upper right-hand corner, it'll say sign in. If you don't have an account, you can create one using a Gmail. You might need to create a Gmail. I think it's the easiest way to go about it. But you can use Gmail for lots of good things, like the Drive, which is like a free way of storage that's endless. So anyway, what you need to worry about is that Allison D, and actually Allison G now, it's defaulting to my married name, created this file, which you click the download button. At this point, you can say load directly into SketchUp model. If you click yes, it's going to plop it somewhere on the screen that you're working in. If you click no, it's going to open a new file with just my stuff in it. I just click yes. There's no reason for us to have a separate file necessarily unless we're like looking at the model and we know it's not going to paste well. Like it looks like furniture is floating and so on and so forth. So we can try it both ways and see the differences, but I usually click yes. Samantha asked, do we need to do that to get the stuff from the 3D warehouse? No, you do not need to have an account and created in order to get things from the 3D warehouse. So you could make it through your homework without creating an account. The creating of the account is more for if you want to upload your model to the 3D warehouse. All right, so I'm going to click yes, which means it's going to da-da-da-da, and then once it's done, it's going to plop right into my drawing. As long as it doesn't crash first. Oh, you scared me. I thought you were Hunter just busting in. Um, okay. What is that dressing? Sorry, guys. That one. Yeah. Okay. So then we have to find where we want to paste this in. And I know if I go to the origin, that guy's feet are flat on the ground. That kitchen pasted very nicely where it's supposed to, but some things are in weird spots. So I'm going to click it right to the origin and then see what happened. So right now, all of this thing is a full group, but look, the door's way back here and it needs to be up here. How inconvenient that I did that to you. And then here's this window, it's so close and yet so far. So we want to make sure that we have the opportunity to move those things not in a full group. Or could we keep them in a group? Maybe it depends on how we want to manage our layers. So I think it would be better if we explode it for now, because it'll still keep those individual things together and not just create a bunch of lines like in AutoCAD where everything and then it's destruction forever. No problem. You can go ahead. And now I can move things. So the kitchen's good to go. How kind of me. And then this guy can stay or go. We could care less about him. The window you're going to have to move. So lucky for you, it looks like it's about to be right in the right place. You're going to click on your window, and then you need to find a point to snap from and to. So if I click move from my window and I find this nice endpoint in group, and then I find this endpoint for the house, oh, look at that. It cleanly matches right into the spot that it needs to. I've got to move this door back here, so I'm going to select off, select my door. Again, find a nice snapping point that will be easy to position the door. So I'll click move. And let's see if I double click or triple click your door. I didn't, because I don't need to be, I'm not editing the door, I'm moving the full group. So I just selected it, and then I'm going to move it as a full group. If I wanted to paint it, I could come in here. If I wanted to delete out the mullions, I could come in here. But just for moving purposes, we don't need to click into it. We just need to select. So one click, and then the move, and then find a nice crisp endpoint, and then know where that endpoint matches up with your house, which is right here. And there I have positioned my door. And it's so slick and so nice that it's going to feel like cheating. And that's what's so great about modeling with completed models as opposed to working in AutoCAD, right? We can go into that 3D warehouse, and if we have enough foresight to plan, or like we have a door, like a whole selection of doors, thousands of doors, we can load them straight in and scale them to size and plop them into our model and fit them. Okay, so this is meant to be nice and clean and easy, just an exercise in moving, using our endpoints, and exercise in loading things from the 3D models on the 3D warehouse. So that's a good chunk of our house that you're doing for homework, right? And then you'll have painted this side. We're just missing a roof. Also for homework, you're supposed to bring in a vanity and a toilet and a door for this room in here. So if I were to go back out to my model, this is where I'll start seeing what happens if I have the free ability to choose my own stuff. It was really nice when Allison created the model for me, but it's not always that pretty because there's some yahoos out there drawing stuff in SketchUp and uploading it just to mess with you. So let's see what happens. I could type in toilet. I need a toilet. So the endless possibilities. Kohler has all their models available on SketchUp. Let's pick this guy. He seems good enough for me. I could read about him. So the San Suchi one-piece toilet offers a sleek contemporary design, convenient chair-like height. This is like good stuff. They have pretty good write-ups on SketchUp. If you're looking for stuff to add to the information of your packet for 108, like details on it, this is actual manufacturer's background for this product. So You could talk about the collection, where you got it from, the size and how much it holds. I bet if you typed in toilet, like water saving toilet, it would even get that specific and you could find stuff that way. Or you could start from the Kohler site and download individual objects that way. So I like it. I read about it. It's great. It's got a 3.5 gallon tank. That's just what I wanted. I'm going to click download. I want it right in my model. Yes. All right. So notice right now, I was trying to bring it in, on face in group. This is why I created this lab. And ignore my whole weird building. I changed the size from when my husband did it. Yours will all be right. Okay, so it has to say on face in group. That means it's snapping to the floor, which is the flat face that I'm dragging it across. If it doesn't say that, it'll be way up here. Now I have to go back. It's really annoying. So, must say on face in group. Download. Yes. As long as it says that, you can place it. And once it says that, you should be able to move it. But once you place it on the face, you need to move it about all those axis points, because if you're just moving it where you think you see it's going okay, it might not actually be on the ground again. So what tells me it's on the ground is it's on facing group. This might be a good point. I know I'm going to rotate it in order to be facing forward towards me as I'm looking at the screen. So I would put my little rotate tool. Let's do it step by step. Click the rotate tool. Wait till it's blue. Blue is the axis that's on the facing group as well. Click. I know that I want to pull, like start with my toilet's facing direction and turn it 90 degrees, or type 90, enter. I know you couldn't see it in the corner, but you can see it now. It said angle 90. Then I could see where that's at, do a double check. Yep, it's on the floor. Great. Then once I have the toilet, I want to move it to the left, to the right, to the front, to the back. Nothing else. I want to watch the axes that I'm moving it on. So now I can move it and see that nice red line. All right, great. It's on a red axis. I didn't pull it up or down. Then I want to move it to the left or the right. I don't want to rotate it. Move it. Whoop. Green line, right, left or right. Okay, that tells me it's going to maintain that on-face positioning. If you don't do that, it will not work out for you, and you'll cry in your soup, and you'll call me in the middle of the night, okay? So that's how we do that. If this really isn't working out for you, we've found sometimes if you make sure that I'm going to save this really quick. If when you're drawing, you go into camera, standard views top, and then you go to the warehouse and then you load it in, it somehow registers that you're in kind of a floor plan view, and then when you go to place it, it'll automatically end up on the floor once you click. It's a lot better about that, but not always. So the main thing is that we see on facing group when we place it, and then we go left and right, front and back. We don't go up and down. We don't want to go up and down on this axis. We want to go red and green. Okay, so you're bringing me in a toilet, you're also bringing me in a vanity, and you're bringing me in a door. Let's type in door. Remember, you don't have to do what I'm doing either. This is all freedom, and maybe for those of you in 108, you have like a prairie style house, so you want to have like a cool glass topper for it that's very rectilinear, or something that makes it match the style of what you're going for, like these guys, although I don't want to see you in the bathroom. Okay, so I'm just going to pick this 6-panel door. I'm going to download it. Yes, directly into my model. It's 36 inches wide. Heaven hooray, because that's the width of my openings. If I know where I want to place it, right, I want to make sure it at least says on edge is kind of good because I know that it's lined up with the cutout. So I'll click there because I know it's lining up with this edge. Then I can rotate it. So I'm going to put my rotate tool down. I'm pulling out to the green axis. I want the face to turn 90 degrees, 90, enter. Then I'm going to click my selection tool, make sure my door is still selected, click my move tool, find this nice corner point, snap it in. Okay, so I want you to see something. Zoom out for a second. It looks like, unless I'm going insane, this door is, even though they say it's 36 inches wide, that might be the opening of the door, but not including the framing. So let's say we want the framing to come in for some reason. We can always scale things. So if I select it and then I select scale and then I click on it, I might want to scale it before in a more viewable way. Let me think. You made this into interior walls this week. You could, let's see if I did it on this one because I was working on my own time. So I want to do window, default tray. My tray is just moved over because I couldn't see my little measurement guy. I want to have a interior walls. Okay. I want to make sure that this is on interior walls. Entity info needs to be dropped down. It is. Okay, so it's as easy as turning it off. Ah, there's my door. Okay, so now when I go to scale it, hold on. I think, there we go. I was like, I'm missing my dot. So I don't know exactly the width of that. I could measure it. And this is like part of the problem solving of SketchUp and people's models. But if I came in and I'm like, okay, how thick is the framing? It's 5/8. So it looks like I need to scale it in 5/8 in order for it to fit, or maybe double that. Then you can play with it and you can click on him and you can click scale. You can find this little green dot and pull it over 5/8 inch. Enter. Okay. And then see if it'll match up with your opening. So you could turn your opening back on. And now once this, because I know I like pushed it past because I got impatient with it, you can snap it straight to that edge. But it looks like it was just an issue that I needed to move it. And I was like, it just needs to be pushed over, so I can click move, find my corner, make sure it's really matching up. So I fixed the width. It might need a little bit more. I could measure the gap. So whatever this is, figure that out and then pull it out to the side. So it takes some time scaling some of those things. Next week, sorry, I'm like in the abyss, we're going to talk about stairs and doors that have special properties, so then you can just type in the width change and it'll do it for you, which is what would be easier. But I want you to practice with these modifications where you have to change the measurements by using that little green dot on the side with the scale tool and figuring out your opening. You could have measured your overall opening, measured your overall door width instead of just the little side thing, and then just scaled it over whatever it needs to be to change. Is that where the toilet is supposed to be placed? Honestly, yes. I'll just say yes. So toilet here, and then we have our vanity here. That's because usually we don't want to walk into a toilet, and on the original plan that I got off the internet to build this off of, it was over here. So you're going to want some nice window coverings in here. But that is where it is placed, Samantha. And it has a little bit of give. You usually want about 18 inches on the one side, well, really 12 for residential. And then we'd have our vanity. It could be a pedestal, though. It could have cabinets. You could have a mirror above it. I mean, get creative, guys. It doesn't have to be blah and boring. It can be a good taste thing as well. This is going to be a good project for you guys to use in your portfolios. All right, so work with scaling the door. Let's just pull it out really quick. So I'm pulling out, way out. I just want to see like scaling an object. Sometimes there's way more pick points than this. I think that this is a special door, which is why it's a little tricky. But I don't want to talk about special doors until next week. So I could pull it way out. I can pull it way in. Notice it's pretty good about adjusting itself. If I have something like a cabinet, so I have to double click out of that, double click in here, and I want to scale it. Notice all of these push points is what I'm getting at. Ooh, and the great thing about SketchUp is there are a lot of cabinet makers, so most of the time when you bring cabinets in, they've actually built the interiors of them, sometimes the back panels, they have the actual joints and handles. So it's not like just an abyss behind these things. Sometimes there's actually drawers with hinges and all that good stuff. It just depends on what model. This was more meant to be an exterior visual representation than a fancy kitchen we're going to open and do anything with. But just see all of these. So like sometimes you could do diagonally and that'll change it that way. Sometimes up and down on the axis. Most of the time for what we're doing, this is a dangerous one, the uniform scale. Like we can just go up, down, over, left, right uniformly, unless we know we're doing a ratio and we want to change it all at once, be like 1/3 of the size, about its diagonal proportion. Hey honey, I wondered, like in here, if I double click in and I collect this face, like I can't remember how I can find that material, because when I look at its info and like know exactly what material you used, so I go under materials and I drop it. Okay.
Or just here, if you
this guy?
hold your Alt key and press on it.
Mm-hmm.
So go tap on it while you hold Alt. Oh, you have to be in the brush. Now try it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Always marry someone who does what you do. That's my suggestion. And especially marry someone who does it better than you. Okay, so what he was saying is we could figure out what material this was, double clicking on the object till we see that little dot pattern, right? That tells me that I'm actually on the paintable surface. And then once we click on this paint bucket and we hit Alt, it will bring up that material's granite brown to the side. So let's click off. Let's click in here, click on our paintbrush and click Alt. You'll see the little eyedropper and it says cladding siding white. Same thing again with this guy, double click in, I see my dots, I grab my paint bucket, I should hit Alt and then click granite brown. That's how we can check our materials. Yay, husbands. Okay, so we've got a lot here. It's missing something. I'm going to have to update my model. So sometimes it's scalable like this. That's a good indicator that this object is a dynamic object and it's not meant to be scaled that way, but that's okay. For this activity, I just want you to give me as close as you can to getting a nice door in there. What really matters is the window and door are placed well, that you picked a good selection for your toilet and your vanity and flopped them in there. And that we have the slab floor and everything painted. So there's a lot of pieces to this. I'm not going to mark you way off because your door is a little bit funky, okay? I will mark you off if the door is like way up here. So like I look and there's an air gap below the door or it's placed really funny like that. I want to see that it's actually on the face and as well adjusted in here. I don't want to see this either where there's so much overlap. It's like, didn't you even try? So we're getting there. We're missing pillars, which is my bad. So I'll have to upload a pillar into the model, but then the pillar is another item. It's just going to be in there and you're just going to click it to the corners. And we saw if you deleted your pillars, we can easily load those in from AutoCAD. Another way to think about it is like always think about the least amount of junk that you can bring in. So like you could have deleted, and you being me and the voices in my head, all of this stuff, kept the pillars and some guidelines that we have and just loaded this in instead of the full underlayer because we already had the walls. So think pretty hard about it. There is a pillar with what we brought in the kitchen. Oh, is it just hiding in the kitchen? Where? Where are you seeing in the kitchen? What pillar? You do? Well, good. Perfect. Well, as long as it's there, that's good to know. So Devin's saying there's a pillar that's usable in the file, and I did put it in. Good to know. You'll just plop them in. You might have to copy and paste, so we can always copy and paste things. If I come in here and I wanted another cabinet and I wanted to delete this out, I could copy all three of these. Well, this is where it gets a little tricky, actually. It's better with individual things, so it might be better to like use these two and scale them and put them over here because it's not going to be enough space for three more, and maybe if they were a little bit slimmer. I can just right click it once it's selected, and let's see, oh, they changed it in 2017. Okay, so it's selected. I can type Control C. Did you see the plus? Like Control C, see the plus, and then Control V, and it'll bring it in. And I want to know that it's like kind of okay, right? So right now, where did that put it? Oh man. So as long as I have a movable point that can snap to that other point, it's okay. You just want to make sure that we get close enough and find a good snapping point, and then we'd want to double click in here and maybe push pull this together and push pull these things in. So we can copy and paste things. That column's the same way. You can just click on what you want to copy. So here I could click on it. I could go to edit, copy, edit, paste, and then I'd have another one. So once we would do that with our pillars, 1, 2, 3, and place them in accordingly. All right. So I'm thinking that's wrapping up our rubric guide. Import the exterior, office items, bring in from the 3D, place in spots of model, select and bring in bathroom, vanity, and toilet, bring in interior door, place these items. All right, so not too bad. I just want to talk about SketchUp in general. Guide points, push pull, front to back. Yeah, so now I can talk about whatever I want. I had pulled up on my screen my Facebook. I just want you to know that this tool is extremely powerful. This is my house. The green is a little ostentatious, I know, but it's not in real life, and I can show you pictures of my house. I just do it so that it's a clear contrast in the visual. I want to talk about working smarter, not harder for those of you in 108. So I know that sometimes you'll find an inspiration photo and you have the perfect chair, and then you will spend forever searching for a similar chair in SketchUp. If you can do it the next time, I suggest starting in SketchUp, finding a chair from a manufacturer and working backwards. That way you're not searching for the model forever. This chair though is close to what I have. You want to find something that's as visually close to what you have as you can. So when I look at this photo, I see my living room. My husband just built me this wall right here of industrial bookshelves using pipe, and then I was trying to figure out if I wanted some shelving over here above my sofa. And then this is the exterior view. This is my photo wall that's actually there. So this is what I'm hoping it'll look like. Here's what it looks like, well, in real life, right? I'm trying to figure out if these shelves are going to be too congested. But what I did for that one chair that was really hard to find, because I already bought the chair, so I need it to be that chair. I came into my photo, let's see my baby, and I have an album running of my remodel. And drawing a circle and push pulling it through. Yes, you should. Kate, you're doing too much. They're not going to be as fancy as my pillars. My pillars are fancier. They've got really nice detail at the top. But it's good. I mean, any play that you can get with the whole usage of tools is good. New house. Yep, this is it. Okay, so my living room really looks like I build it all. Like I went through all the pre-planning in SketchUp really quick because they already have pipe fittings in SketchUp. So they had the flanges, they had the pieces of pipe. And then these are just rectangles that are pushed and pulled over. And then I cut little holes in them and put my pipes through. And it was really quick, but it was such a powerful visual for me to know how I wanted to lay everything out, right? And then, like I said, the green's not as bad in real life. Here's my husband making all my dreams come true. But there's this wall, and that looks exactly like what it did in SketchUp, and I measured it all in SketchUp to tell him where I wanted to place it. So this is a tool you will use in life. AutoCAD too. I use AutoCAD too when I don't care about this and I just need to see space planning and it's quicker for me. But these tools are meant to be quick turnaround, and clients just eat it up because it might not be super visually realistic, but it gets the job done in a quick way once you get used to it. And here's my final pipe shelf, which I figured out in SketchUp. I had to modify some of these things. And then maybe I'll show you next week. My husband did a thing where he took all these flanges then and broke them down into pieces and piles in SketchUp so he knew what to buy from Menards and how much money it was going to cost, which is really important that we be able to cost things out and have a realistic idea of material cost. So here's my chair. They did not have this chair in SketchUp. So here's working smarter, not harder too. Taking similar visual objects and manipulating them quickly. So I found a chair that looked like this guy with no arms. Okay, and now that you get in, I'm like the queen of sneaky views and quick SketchUp. So these are really hideous, right, now that you see them. But all I did was I took the back of the chair and I scaled it to be a third of the size, and then I rotated it and created these arms. But then when I come out here or from my 3D views, it totally works and it looks like my chair because of the manipulation of the 3 dimensions. So use little quick things where you're taking pieces of other chairs. If you can't find one chair, you could use 2 different chairs from SketchUp and put them together. It might have the arm you want but not the back. You can quickly do that as opposed to trying to draw curves. Drawing curves would be advanced SketchUp for sure. So you're going to use it for your projects. I could make one of the projects drawing my kitchen. That'd be great. Then everybody would get some practice and I wouldn't have to do that stuff. But even like my mirror wall, I went on to House and I went on to Better Homes and Gardens. I found all the things I wanted. This is the exact mirror, right? And then I just brought in the images, which we'll talk about in a couple of weeks, of those mirrors and plopped them in so I could see this is from Crate and Barrel. And I was like, this is exactly how these are going to lay out. Although I didn't end up buying those ones, but I got everything done in one space how it is in real life. This is my real house minus the awesome floor, which isn't going to come until we have a bunch of money. But you're going to use it. It's definitely a useful tool. Okay, any questions on the homework? Any major issues with last week's homework? I already met with a bunch of you, so. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's talk about AutoCAD. We have to go back to that guy. I'm going to close out of this if there's no questions on SketchUp, and really I can always come back to it. So, sure, let's pull up that note. Getting everything in the appropriate, more universal colors for printing, monochrome printing, city font issues. This one, I like deducted points on some of your grades because it wasn't an issue for everyone, which makes me wonder if it's a font issue for certain types of computers, like if you're running Windows 8 versus running Windows 7. But I have old Windows 7, so still kind of strange. Monochrome printing, so if things are in gray, and we want them to be darker, or if they're in color, like our layers are in red and yellow and it's showing up that way on our screen, but we want it to print in black and white, we need to select monochrome when we are in AutoCAD. So like I could have all of this on a different color. I could have this to be purple. I want multiple colors. Green. Okay. So all of these colors, and then I go to my D-size layout and, oh, convenient. There it is. And then I'm ready to print. So I'm going to click print. I'm going to click drawing to a PDF, and I'm going to preview it before I do anything. So I have purple, green, and black. And then I also have the color of the viewport, unfortunately. So that's not going to do. So I want to go up to plot style and click monochrome and then preview. Ooh, you little guy. You're going to do it. You are totally going to do it. Okay, drawing to PDF, ArchG, monochrome. Use on black, style, name, object line. Hold on. I'm going to try this one and see, but I don't think it is what I want. No. Well, interesting, because it works in the lab. Maybe I need to work through it and then bring it back up next week. Has always worked for my whole life. So if I change this, adjust it a little bit, close this guy. I have my viewport. I have all of these guys in colors. It really should be that simple. Print, landscape, plot. What am I not clicking? Plot line weights, plot background, plot styles, paper space. Yeah, that's fine. Let me try actually printing it and see if it's different once you save it, or if it's still going to print in color. Oh, it wasn't selected. Drawing to PDF. What about if I do that? Still color. Interesting. All right, I suppose we'll put it off then, because it really was working on my computer just the other day, but I'm wondering, because this is a different drawing than, let's say, a boathouse file. So if I open up one of your boathouse files in my overly saturated documents, and this is weird too because I can't get to my downloads. Why are you all leaving? It's only 7 o'clock. I'm counting you absent. Because I can't. So, does this really only go to 7 o'clock? It goes to 7:30, right? Am I crazy? For SketchUp siding, why 3 foot 2 inches? What does the dimension represent? And in AutoCAD, I've noticed that when I hit undo, sometimes it jumps back several steps when I just wanted to go back 1 step. I can't address that, Trisha. That's one of those Trisha things that you keep coming up with. As far as the jump back, the 3 foot 2 for SketchUp represents the repeat of the digital image that was used to create the siding. I can explain it better when we do the week where we bring in photo images. So for now, but it's just like a ratio of height and width of the actual lines, but it depends on what the image was, where that proportion is. So it might not just be, you know, it doesn't look like it's saying that's the height of one piece of siding or even the width of one piece of siding. It's the repeat of the image that makes up the siding. It's hard to explain. The original image. Yep, their actual siding is not that size. That's correct. It has nothing to do with the proportions of the siding. Heather says she can't remember. 7:20. It goes to 7:30 for sure. Because I always have like 1 minute to get to my other class, I'm pretty sure. Okay, 7:20. Let's look at that list though, because there's more than just that. City font issues, yeah. It was like saying that it was undeveloped. I want to go through that with you guys this coming Tuesday, my lab people that are there that turned it in with those issues. The leader setup, I want to do that as a class when we go to make our sheets for the final. And layer organization, really it's the color thing. I want to get everyone to organize their colors better, which I should have done at the beginning, so that some people had it on a layer that is turned off. I think it's maybe 255 possibly, but there's one color that it looks black and it prints as nothing. So we need to get it off of that layer and onto the printable color. All right, well, the main thing today was the SketchUp. I am going to post the video I'm at home, so they can't kick me out, and I have it on my computer so I can post it tonight. And on top of posting the video, do not take the quiz until I send out the announcement that says, all right, I checked it. Everything we covered is either in a video or it's in my video. Okay, so sure, let's dismiss early. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just weird that people feel that they can control it. That's the only thing that's weird. Does anyone have any other questions? No questions? Oh, it's too easy. That issue of undo, yeah. We can look at it. Can you recreate it? Is it that big of an issue? Oh yeah, I believe you that it's kind of a big deal. Thank you, Samantha. It's the pain meds. They make me a more interesting person to be on video with. Yeah, Patricia, so if you can recreate it and show me that it's an issue that's reoccurring and solvable, yes. It's when you give me these phantom issues that I totally believe are happening, but they're like 1 in 18. And so then we can't recreate it enough to be like, this is definitely set wrong, or like maybe a setting in the undo. I can Google undo is doing multiple steps and try and figure it out that way from the AutoCAD help, and it might be that easy. But is it like that? So have you experienced that it's that regular? Like 1 in what? 1 in 3 times when you go to undo, or every time? Shemaine says it could be your mouse button causing it. You mean like it's overly sensitive, Shemaine, so she's double clicking when she thinks that she's single clicking?
Or her mouse is maybe gonna die on her or something like that.
Yes, let's blame the other technology. My mouse has done a couple of goofy things lately, so perhaps. Is it cordless? If you can get a cordless mouse, I highly recommend it because they think faster than uncorded mouse. My husband brought that up when he was playing a video game the other day, which he doesn't actually usually do. It's like a weird recent thing. But he was just saying like it has a quicker response time than a non-corded mouse. Yeah, wireless I've found giving me a lot of glitches. But I still would want to Google the whole issue because it could be like a setting where you can set it to undo once and just set to do multiple. Oh, I have a lot of you. So are any of you thinking of taking summer classes? It's like a shameless plug for my summer class. Anybody? And if so, then I'll give my like whole spiel. You would be taking
Let me hear your
textiles.
spiel.
Yeah, all right. You get the spiel. Okay, so I'm running 282. Nobody in this class, I don't think, took 182 except for Shemaine, who loved it, right, Shemaine? So 282 is an independent study. And if you're like a real creative thinker and you want to have a really nice showcase piece for your portfolio and like manage your time and your project how you want to, it's the class for you. So textiles, I don't want to undersell textiles because we'll run whatever we can fill. Textiles and independent study are the two that are definitely running. Textiles is more in the vein of history in that it has like very like repetitive kind of concepts and you're learning about each individual textile. You do your swatch book, you independent study is like one giant critique where at the beginning you pick from a long list and everyone does a different project unless two people want the same, and we can do that as well, of things like kitchen design, visual merchandising, green and sustainability. So like Shemaine did her last projects on pocket neighborhoods. I had a student do one on biophilic design in offices, which my background is in contract interiors for offices and education, and also in healthcare. You could do a healthcare facility. You could do a bigger project. It's just like we get more into the research side of it. So every week we critique, and everyone with their different project comes to the table, and your peers and me as the professional, we just basically critique each other. It's not a heavy lecture. It is like a 2-hour lecture class one time a week, and then there's 1 hour of lab, so it's 3 hours altogether for the week. That's not including your work time, but the time that we're meeting to actually work. What is the prereq? The prereq is at least drafting of some type, so hand drafting works. You don't have to have drafting. You're taking this, so we all know if you're in here, you've got it. You're ready to go. I think that's the only major one. Like I talked with Mrs. Kent, and she said that would be enough. So I think 107 was it. But we all meet together. So last year it was great because we had somebody who he wanted to do window design for visual merchandising, and he was going to do this part of the city. He found a space. He was going to create a SketchUp model. In the first 2 weeks, I meet with each of you individually, and we come up with a timeline and exactly what, as an individual, you have to accomplish. So if that's going to be research, a budget document, and 2 elevations, and it's different for everyone. So like Shemaine was thinking kitchen and bath, so I said we'll do the student competition for that, and then she'll do the client research that goes in with it. I'll give her the worksheets. I come up with all your management. We talk about how many hours it takes you a week, and then you just go, and then we just come and we meet and we talk and we chat, and it's pretty fun and open. It is 200 level course, so it's going to have, it has not necessarily a higher level of work than 182, but a higher level of expectation in the cleanliness and the approach to the design. So like really solid design concepts, but we get to talk about all the fun sides. So like design concepting, how to work harder and not smarter, and like modeling. We can do whatever we want with the discussion side of it. It's really free-flowing and open. And it's fun because it's a lot of creative freedom and exactly what you want to make it. We just agree to it in like a contract kind of thing together. Everyone has a different syllabus. I had someone do historic preservation last time. Someone did flipping houses. So it can be fun. It can be even more fun this time. Cassie's in here like, it wasn't that fun. Well, some people thought it was fun. I don't know. Maybe Cassie thought it was fun. I'm going to have a lot more time for it because I'm most likely only teaching that one thing, and I don't have another job. So that gives me a lot of time to prepare some really fun lectures. on top of the communication side. Sounds interesting. The dates, June 5th till May, June, July, August. I think it's somewhere in August, like the end of August. It doesn't run, it's 8 weeks. And next week, if we want to do this whole thing, I could show you guys the projects that came out of it, because I thought the two that were final were good. We can show Shemaine's. Shemaine's is on display, I think, it was until they put up the faculty show. All right. That's my plug. I really want to fill it. You guys and your textiles. You take textiles. Textiles actually is so much better than when I was a student now, because Professor King she's got like really fun projects in there. It used to be hard because, especially as an online course, you can imagine with textiles how to communicate or do projects. When it was in person, it was like you could tie-dye things and you could have everybody go on field trips and see the different textiles and make different things. But once it goes to a hybrid course, then it's really hard. So she came up with some really fun projects for that class. So it's really not as monotonous as history, but yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think she's really revamped that course, to be honest. So, you know, you can take my 282. I promise it will be fun. Yeah. I wonder what I'm teaching. You're probably going to get in, oh yeah, we've got building systems next semester, which will be way better because I have more time for that too. And then something else they've got me doing besides building systems for the fall, but I can't think of what it is. You used beets, Caitlin. Just beets, so it was all like red and white shirt. Do you wear it every day? Or is it like your Walmart going out shirt where you just wear it to sleep in?
I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah. Liz says she never wears hers. So why? Just because tie-dye isn't the thing right now? I have a family, like every time I go to their house, they're kind of hippies to begin with, and like they're all wearing tie-dyes, like mom, dad, and baby. And she's like, this is not a thing. She's like, we don't always wear tie-dye. It's just like somehow when you come to our house, we're all wearing tie-dye on the same day because nothing's clean. It shrunk in the wash. Well, if you ever have a child, you can pass it down and tell them the story of dyeing your own clothing with sustainable fruit. Okay, guys. Well, I'm going to take the rest of the time to break, make my GoToMeeting link, and then I'll see you guys in history, most of you. Talk to you in a few. Bye.
Bye.